cozy little town. I like it. I like it. Tourists? Okay. Outsiders for sure. Ah, okay. Hey. Looks like 10-man theater. It's a tried and tested, grumpy. I was about to say it's the tried and tested grumpy husband and sweet as sugar wife. Chapter 20. Okay. I guess Senma's speaking in English now. She's so sweet. Okay, I'm liking this. I'm liking this. Bit of a road trip episode. Byron. Straight to it. I mean, from the outside looking in, yeah, understandable. Okay, this man. And he is speaking English as well, after all. I was gonna say, he's got an eye for the details. Looks like it. Of course. Mutually beneficial, yes. Oh no, flat tire? Ah, that'll do it. Yeah, I don't think he was expecting Tenmaru to stay around. He seems like a realist. No nonsense type of guy. Man, Dieter. Gotta love Dieter. Oh god. I just hope nothing bad happens to them. Don't be saying his name out loud though. Tenma's gotta tell him about that. Oh, that's a great shot. Kind of ominous. Seeing them disappear. Oh. I love this, you know? He gets to be a kid. It's gotta be a little bit scary, right? In a foreign country that you don't really know. Interesting. I mean, he was studying him the moment they saw him. And then the back seat. Oh, yes. Yes. It's the simple things. Simple pleasures. Like a beautiful sky. Robert? Son? Here come 10-man Dieter. It is. Jeez. It's quite the walk, isn't it? Pessimist and optimist. There you go. I mean, you almost filled it up. Nice. Looks like they got a few different dishes here. Love that for Dieter. Oh, he's got newspaper. He's really buried in that newspaper, man. It's making me uneasy. I mean, he's still got this one to finish. He's retired, but he can't stop from... Ooh, bit of a test. Is that right? Oh. So he's got an opinion on Tenma as well, clearly. Huh. So as he got older, it became a bit more gray, morally gray. Interesting. She got really sad there. Oh, yes. Okay, he's loosening up. He's opening up now. There was that shift that happened during the conversation. It would be nice. Is there a tragedy in their life? They mentioned that Robert, they got lost in time, lost in memories there. Also, I hate people like that honk immediately. Aw. Detour, eh? Oh, I don't like that I can't see their faces here. Oh, god damn. No, I don't think they're here to turn Tenma in or anything. I don't even think he truly... I mean, he did have the paper. No, she handed him something. So this is something they had on the agenda anyways. But now you're in the parking lot at a police station, so... Careful, because you are... I mean, you do stick out, right? He is Japanese. No, don't run. Don't run. No. Did I just hear Gaijin? Gaijin? Okay. Oh. It sucks to see her so sad. Is Robert a son that died, potentially? Is he missing? Freiham. Steinbach Castle. Nice. Oh, this place must exist then, right? You know, this episode really truly kind of almost feels like tourism Germany type thing as well. Take it easy, take it easy. You know, this episode really has me thinking about my parents. They're not quite as old as this couple, but still.
息子の手紙に書いてあったんです。この城からの景色は最高だ。
Okay, so it is a son, but it looks like he
私たち
died.
にも見せたいって。これから会いに行くところなんです。
Oh, like
でも
his
夜
grave?
道ばっかり。
It's almost as if they're avoiding it, trying to put it off, maybe?
この景色を眺めていたんだ。息子はね、息子は人を殺したんだよ。
Oh.
面会するためにこの国に来たんだ。
Oh, wow. Okay. I suppose that's the reason they had to go to the police station. Ah, that makes sense. Back at the restaurant.
じゃあ私たちはここで本当にありがとうございました。
いや、こちらこそ心から礼を言うよ。
There you go.
ありがとう。元気でな。
Dieter. It's always smiling,
で
man.
したね。
ああ、
Ah.
彼は連続殺人のような
Oh, he did see him.
男だ。
He read about him in the paper,
そ
didn't
ん
he?
なまさかあの人が。
いや、確か以前彼の手配写真を見た。
だって
現に今日ロバートを逮捕した刑事に挨拶に行った時、
Oh,
署
okay,
内
at the
に彼
station.
の写真が
Checks
貼ってあ
out.
ったよ。
信じられない。
No, but
あんないい人が。
ああ、私も以前彼の写真を見た時疑問に思った。
but after you spent some
そ
time,
して会って確信した。彼は無実。少なくとも悪人じゃない。
yeah. Of course, you know, yeah, they're thinking about their son as well now.
私は身内でさえ見抜く目がなかった。そう思った時、私は刑事を辞めた。
It's rough, man. Okay.
Done.
Prison.
私の目にもう一度自信を持とうと思うんだ。ロバートは罪を犯したが悪人なんかじゃない。さあ、会いに行こう。ロバートに。
Wow. Yeah. It's a great ending. It's a great episode. It kind of flew by. Really enjoyed that. All right, folks, episode 20. I mean, first of all, 20 episodes in. How about that? You know, it's a good feeling. It's a great feeling. Damn good feeling, actually, to be really deep into the show at this point, right? And, you know, one thing that's been clear for some time now, but, you know, once again reiterated throughout this episode and by the conclusion of this episode is that Urasawa is an absolute monster. Hold on. I almost said Urasawa is an absolute monster. No. Sorry, I meant to say Urasawa is an absolute master. You see, he's an absolute master at building that tension and then releasing the tension. It is such a perfectly balanced approach, right? I mean, it's becoming really clear at this point as well that Urasawa is a master of his craft. And the more I watch of Monster, the more excited I get for Pluto. That's coming up in the end of October as well. And, you know, recently I found out that these are meant to be super long episodes, or at least twice the length of a normal anime episode. And I suppose a normal anime episode is like 20, 22 minutes. So yeah, you know, looking at something like a 45-minute anime episode. And I believe it's 8 episodes total. So yeah, you know, I'm sure that's going to be a damn good time for a lot of us. But the only, you know, I'll be honest, the only downside to me, at least, again, you know, it's quite subjective, is that all of it drops at the same time. It is Netflix at the end of the day. But yeah, it doesn't matter, you know, just because it drops all on the same day doesn't mean I have to get to all of it on the same day. I don't know. It's just something I've never been a fan of. You know, the season drops on Netflix. And that's probably because I'm not much of a binger. You know, I don't like to binge watch. That's just not my thing. I mean, there's a few things, something really specific like One Piece. That's just kind of been my ritual. I know I'll get back to Monster in episode 20 of Monster, but, you know, for One Piece, for a long part of my life at this point, I mean, more than half my life, I've always kind of collected episodes and do a grand old binge, right? Like I'm talking like 60, 70, 80 episodes. You know, once they add up, then I do a binge, right? I allow myself like 5, 6 episodes a day until I've kind of caught up to, I don't know, the 60, 70 episodes I kind of allowed myself. I've never actually been caught up to One Piece. Never in my life. And I've been watching it for more than half my life at this point, right? But, I was telling a friend the other day that the next time I do kind of get to binge One Piece, I might actually catch up to the most recent anime episode. So that is kind of exciting and also kind of, I don't know, it makes me a little bit uneasy, because I've never been in that position. And I'm just really not sure how I'll be able to handle the week-to-week release schedule on One Piece for new episodes. But, let's see how it goes. Last I checked, I was really close to episode 1000. A few episodes, I think, maybe 2 episodes from episode 1000. So I believe I have nearly 80-ish episodes at the moment to catch up to, I think. But let's get back to Urasawa. And beyond Pluto, I actually got a shipment the other day. I ordered the first volume of Monster, the manga. I was told that it's certainly safe for me to get the first volume. And I also got 20th Century Boys, so I'll be checking that out on my time, of course, off camera, because there's no anime for it. I mean, I know there's that notion of manga reactions, but that's not really my thing. Film reactions and manga reactions, it's not something I'm really a fan of, or it's not really something I can see myself doing. But I can see myself doing analysis or reviews, because I've certainly wanted to do a manga review series for Berserk. And for perhaps some of the other titles as well, right? But be it Pluto, be it 20th Century Boys, I'm really quite excited to really experience more of Urasawa's works. And, once again, in this episode, you get to see that the man has this concise episodic execution, right? That ultimately always tethers to the main theme or the main themes of the anime or the thematic core of this story, right? It doesn't ever deviate too much from that. It's always kind of coming back to it. It always comes back to it, right? And, a lot of those themes are covered in this anime as well. Sorry, not anime, this episode as well, right? A lot of interesting things come up in this episode. And, before I go any further, a thing I love so much is that Dieter gets to be out there, right? Yes, him and Tenma are essentially on the run and they're on foot a lot of the times. But, Dieter doesn't seem to be complaining about that much, right? I feel like Dieter is really getting a lot out of this experience. And I'm so happy that Dieter does get to have these experiences. He does get to experience the beauty of the world, right? Even if it is just immediately through Germany, because Germany is beautiful. It is. And he's getting to see some beautiful parts of Germany. And, I'm getting to see some beautiful parts of Germany as well. I mean, yes, it's animated, but, it's still pretty grounded, isn't it? And like I said earlier in the episode itself, at times, it's almost as if these episodes, monster episodes, are this perfect ad for Germany, right? Tourism Germany. I mean, like I mentioned before, Germany has always been a part of my travel plans, but, through this experience as well, it's, kind of heightened, right? Now, you'll have to let me know if the castle itself is something that is a real life thing, or maybe a few things actually might be created for the manga or for this anime specifically. But from the things I've read from you guys in the comments, it's pretty accurate for the most part, right? Be it some of these train stations, be it some of these really familiar looking streets, perhaps this castle. Because Heidelberg, was it? Because that castle, I remember you guys telling me, that is there. It's around. So I love that Dieter gets to experience all of this, right? Given his upbringing, given how he was kind of stuck in that, I don't know, abyss of darkness, essentially, right? Being brainwashed to think that it's a hellhole out there, right? That there's nothing good out there. That he has to be ready for it, that he has to, that he has no one else out there. No one is ever going to love him out there. There's nothing for him out here because the world sucks, right? The world stinks. It's terrible. So I love this. I love that Dieter gets to experience all of this. You'll see his reactions, even on top of that castle. him and the older man, Dieter's face just lights up. It feels so good. It feels so good. And listen, I've become so attached to Dieter as well. And beyond just Dieter, right? Because he's such a sweet child, the relationship that Tenma and Dieter have, right? There's so many sweet moments. There's so many cute moments of Tenma just looking at Dieter and just thinking, this is how a kid should be. All children should get to live like this. I mean, yes, granted, they are on the run, and granted, yes, Dieter's been in some really dangerous situations since tagging along with Tenma, but still, I feel like, in the grand scheme of things, Dieter is actually really appreciating life at the moment. But yeah, a little bit earlier, I mentioned the idea of building the tension and then releasing that tension, and Urasawa just being such a master at that. I think it's really quite effective in a series like this. And you can really see the pattern, right? You'll get an episode that is really, really dialed into the main story, right? That is Johan and Tenma and that hunt and everything that's kind of, attached to Johan. And then you'll get an episode like this, right? Maybe sometimes you'll get a few episodes that are really dialed into the main storyline, and then you'll get an episode like this, or maybe 2 episodes like this, right? Let's see how the next one plays out. But I think that ultimately going back and forth is a good approach. You don't want to deviate too much from the main storyline either, right? If you end up getting 2 or 3 of these types of episodes in a row, then I can see how some people might be a little bit, maybe they begin to become maybe a tad bit disinterested, right? So yeah, long story short, Urasawa knows. He's got it on lock, doesn't he? He knows how to handle this. And I'm loving it. I'm loving this approach. Listen, I love these types of episodes. I've got no complaints. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode as well because of all the feelings it kind of brought out, right? It had, like I said, it had me thinking of my own parents. But yeah, going back to this episode's limited appearance characters, the couple, the older couple that at first appeared to be tourists, right? It became clear really early on that, they're not from around here, right? And it's an interesting thing that happens in anime sometimes. You'll have different languages that are kind of taking place. People are speaking different languages, but it's all in Japanese anyways, right? Because of course it's anime, right? It's a Japanese product, Japanese production. So, I think something similar happened in Vinland Saga. At times, you'll have Danish speakers, you'll have English speakers, and other languages as well, right? But yeah, here it's pretty simple. It's not that difficult to kind of navigate or anything. And then of course the fact that Tenma was immediately able to kind of switch over to English, that kind of gives the older man. Did I get a name? No, I didn't get a name for them, did I? Yeah, I'll just call him older man for now. It immediately kind of gives him a bit of insight, a bit of information, right? And he tells him as much. Your demeanor, your presentation, I guess he said cadence. No, he didn't say cadence, but something along those lines, right? Everything about you tells me that you're some sort of specialist, right? That you are a put together man, right? And of course, that certainly plays a part in his appraisal of Tenma, I guess, by the end of it as well, right? He takes all of that into account. And the moment Tenma got in there, it was clear that this man, he's kind of studying him. He's already trying to form an opinion. And at that point, I was beginning to think, okay, I was trying to think of the profession he might be in. It ends up being policeman, and that really makes sense and checks out. But, I was maybe thinking of some other profession at first. But, the wife almost immediately said, oh, I apologize. He's a policeman, force of habit and all of that. And, once again, you get yet another individual that was a slave to the job, a slave to work, as his wife put it, right? Again, that's a running theme of this anime. I've seen it so many times throughout so many different episodes and mini character arcs, right? Limited appearance character arcs. And yeah, I think Urasawa certainly has quite a bit to say about this topic. See, my thing is the moment I connect with a story or with the writing of a story or a writer, I do have the tendency to immediately kind of, learn more about the author or the writer or the creator, right? I had that immediately with Ano. So of course Urasawa is no different. I already want to know more about him and his life, and his I don't know, his inspirations, and all of that. I mean, I can kind of infer a lot of his inspirations from the anime itself, right? Based on the themes, the approach. Yeah, there's a lot of you can see a lot of inspiration in there already. But I still want to know about him, right? Kind of like his upbringing, or like his time in high school or college, and how it kind of formed his writing style and the things he was interested in writing about. So yeah, I think it'd be really quite interesting to know about his own experiences, or if he had these similar experiences, right? So much so that he really, really kind of integrates that into this story. This concept of a workaholic, people being slave to the work, to their work life, and kind of neglecting the other side of their life, neglecting the people in their life, right? Or not allocating the right amount of time to important people in their lives. I mean, I'll be honest, this anime really does have me thinking about some of my own, I don't know, life choices, how I, choose to spend my time, and how I choose not to spend my time. And, maybe I should be kind of allocating more of my time to some of my loved ones. Like I said, it really reminded me of my parents. And, in the middle of the episode, seeing this older couple, it just, I don't know, it really had me thinking about spending much more time with my parents. I mean, I definitely need to make an effort to go see them much more. And, earlier I mentioned that it really feels like a road trip episode, doesn't it? And, through that, you really kind of get to see a lot of beautiful frames. You kind of get to see the countryside. You see some beautiful skies, and yeah, man, I mean, sure, at times it feels like it's just really functional animation and art direction, but no, there's some really, really beautiful stuff in this anime in terms of art direction. I'm just really eating it up and really enjoying it. But yeah, the couple and their trip to Germany, I mean, I kind of go through three different, I don't know, options. At first I thought they're just there as tourists. Then, there's this possibility of a son, because she said, Robert, right? And she said something like, oh, I wonder if Robert's looking at the same sky right now. Then, I thought, okay, maybe, their son, maybe their son's missing in Germany. Maybe their son died here in Germany. So they're here to kind of, come see him, to say like a final goodbye, go to his gravesite or something. And, I kind of got the feeling that maybe they're trying to put it off, right? They're really kind of sad about it, maybe making these pit stops and all that. But then, right, on top of that castle, the older man reveals that their son killed someone, right? And then that you kind of get context for a lot of his behavior, a lot of his mannerisms. You go back to that conversation they have inside of the restaurant. It's a lovely scene, of course, but he breaks out the newspaper. I suppose it's an English paper, because he simply cannot read Germany. They made that pretty clear. Sorry, German, excuse me. But yeah, he poses that question to Tenma about that random person who's in the paper, right? Someone who murdered their wife, apparently. But then, after you get a bit of context later on about his son having killed someone, that conversation really, really, just, it hits different, doesn't it? You see there that, he at one point, he begins to doubt himself. And all of this happens after his own son, who he clearly always, thought is a good person, that he's not a bad person, as he still believes by the end of the episode, right? I believe the line of dialogue is, Robert killed someone, but he's not a bad person, right? Listen, maybe that message is a little bit on the nose, right? Maybe it's not the most subtle, but, it's one of the main topics of this, right? The whole concept of, okay, just because you ended up killing someone, just because you murdered someone, or just because someone died because of you, doesn't automatically make you a bad person. There's so many examples. It is so nuanced. For example, imagine someone who's in this abusive relationship. Finally they reach their breaking point. Finally they decide that, they cannot take this anymore. They have to break loose of this hell. Imagine they kill their abuser. Yes, of course, technically they've murdered someone, right? They've taken a life, but does that automatically make that person who killed their abuser a bad person? I don't know. I don't think so, right? But there's a lot of these types of situations, right? And, they didn't really give us enough about Robert's situation to really make a judgment call on him. But, his parents and his father specifically believes that, no, my son, he's a good person. And I know that, right? Even if he doubted it once upon a time, right? And then, ultimately he ends up quitting the force because he felt that he's kind of past it now. He doesn't have an eye for it anymore. He doesn't have the mind for it anymore, right? He said that once upon a time he was really quite accomplished as a policeman, right? That he had a knack for this. He was able to tell if you're a good or a bad person just from a look at someone, right? Ultimately the good thing is he still got it. He still got it, even though he felt that he lost it because he couldn't even judge his own son, right? And of course, immediately after finding out about his son killing someone in Germany, yeah, sure, he must have had so many nights of just being devastated and just being so confused about it all. The mother as well. But yeah, you see that through the example of Tenma, who comes into their life. And, once again, Tenma continues to be this shining light, this beacon of hope. And that idea of him building bonds and connections, it continues, right? It's almost beginning to feel like Tenma's army at this point, right? But I feel like by the time this anime kind of reaches its final stages, reaches its conclusion, you're going to have Tenma and hundreds of people that are behind him, right? Hundreds of connections and the bonds. I'm a big fan of bonds in storytelling. Bonds between people that are from really different backgrounds, bonds between people that you just never thought was possible, right? Bonds in a really dark place, bonds forming in a really dark place. So I'm a big fan of that approach. But you see here, even if Tenma and Dieter, of course, are a part of this, storyline, the main focus is still the couple and their storyline, right? Tenma just happened to be there and he kind of made it into their life for a little moment. And then you see that once the older man really kind of gets to be around Tenma, gets to know him and his demeanor, his attitude, and just how kind he is and how nice of a person he is, he understood. He was able to kind of almost be at ease about his own son, right? Thinking, okay, good people can also be in these kind of situations, right? Does not automatically mean that they are bad people, right? Though, of course, you see that he himself had to kind of look at it from a different perspective because, clearly once upon a time, he had quite a direct approach, right? It was pretty airtight. You're either a good person or you're a bad person. But now you see, again, through that conversation at the restaurant as well, and then his own situation with his son, now he's got more of a nuanced take on it, perhaps, that, maybe it's a little bit more morally gray rather than just like a black or white situation. See, now one thing I'm a little bit confused about, I guess, maybe it was the verbiage that kind of threw me off. Maybe the translation isn't the greatest, but so did he mean that he actually saw Tenma's wanted poster before they actually picked up Tenma and Dieter? Because he said like, oh, this morning, right? I was saying hello to the officer who arrested Robert this morning, and I saw Tenma's wanted poster there. Or was he saying that, this was my first immediate thought that, he actually saw it later, Tenma and Dieter in the parking lot at the police station. I thought he saw it then. I think maybe he meant that. But I don't know, the verbiage made it sound like he actually saw his wanted poster much earlier, before they even picked him up, right? Maybe that's the reason he was a little bit standoffish and really quite, apprehensive around Tenma and, this whole situation of him and Dieter together. And listen, from the outside looking in, it is a bit of a strange duo, isn't it? Young German kid and a Japanese man, just from the outside looking in. Right? You have to look at it. You have to be real about it. You do, right? You have to look at it from other people's perspective, outsiders' perspective. And I kind of want to go back to that scene at the castle, Steinbach Castle, I believe. The father, he really wanted to go there. He really wanted to go see something, right? He wanted to see the things his son saw, the things his son wanted to see, right? And then you get that beautiful scenery that's shot from the top. And, he makes it a point to point out that their son was admiring the scenery, right? This beauty. And this is, like I said, this is a man that is quite a realist. He's been there, he's done that. I personally have a lot of respect for experienced people, older people. And the thing Urasawa so beautifully captured here is how real this man felt, how realistic of a portrayal it was of an older man, an experienced older man who's been through it all. He's a hardened individual. He even nailed the wife. Like I said, it's a tried and tested approach because all of us have seen that pairing in real life, right? The grumpy, again, realist husband, and then you've got the sweet as sugar wife, right? But, together they perfectly complement each other. Ever the optimist and the pessimist. All of us have seen it. Just think about your own parents, right? You'll probably notice some of these similar dynamics present in their relationship as well. I saw a bit of my dad in this man, for sure. And I certainly saw a bit of my mother in this lady. And then, of course, speaking of interesting situations, now you have Tenma, who kind of gets to perhaps think about his own parents, right? And their perspective on all of this, right? I'm not sure yet because they haven't really touched up on it. Tenma's never even mentioned it. His parents, did news of his, situation get to Japan? That's if indeed his parents are still in the picture, right? If they're still alive. Again, this is something they simply have not mentioned at all in this anime. But of course, us, the audience, is in a position to essentially think beyond the page, to think beyond the screen. But yeah, I'm sure Tenma must have thought about his own parents and how they would have handled something like this, right? Or how they would see their son, right? Would they still kind of maintain their belief that, their son's a good person? He's a kind, caring, and sincere person. If this is the case, maybe there's a mistake. Or if indeed maybe he is a part of this, maybe there must have been a reason behind it. Maybe there is some reason. But ultimately, he's not a bad person, right? He must have been thinking about his own parents as well. There's a few subtle moments of Tenma noticing their reactions to things, right? There's a really beautiful moment. There's a sweet moment of the lady noticing the young children crossing the street, right? The stop signs. And she mentioned something about feeling nostalgic. And even the father, right? Even the father begins to kind of get lost in those memories. Both of them kind of get lost in time, don't they? And surely they're thinking about young Robert at that point, right? So it's a beautiful moment, and Tenma noticed it as well. And, in terms of people getting a new perspective on things, perhaps Tenma might have something new as well here, right? A new perspective in terms of Johan, right? That maybe there is something more to it. And that, that ultimately maybe he does need to have a bit more of a nuanced approach to Johan. But yeah, I just think there's this appreciation for life in this story, in this anime, right? The character writing itself beautifully communicates the sincere appreciation of life. You see it in this episode as well, specifically, even through the most simple pleasures of life. It could be Russo's 5 sugars, right? It could be these beautiful skies. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in timer-based full length or early access or full opacity, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel. The links are in the description and the pinned comment, also links to social media, if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 21. Until then, take it easy.